1 week of spring practice in the books. The team is off the spring break right now, but my number one takeaway through 4 practices that I've seen, Nico Iamaleava just looks different. I'll show my work here on a Wednesday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Wednesday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols, presented in part by our friends over at Money Monarch, where you can take control of your finances with Money Monarch. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege at moneymonarch.com for 50% off your first year. I'm your host, Eric Kane. So much to get into here today. A couple recruiting updates in segment 3. What Jay Bilas thinks about the Tennessee Volunteers in the NCAA tournament. You won't want to miss that. Who is Wofford? What is Tennessee walking into in terms of its round of 64 matchup? We'll dive into a really good three-point shooting team in Wofford in segment number 2. But a couple of reactions, a couple of big takeaways I've had from 4 spring practices for Tennessee football. All that and more coming up here on a Wednesday show. Josh Ward going to be on tomorrow's show to get us ready for Tennessee and Wofford in the NCAA tournament. And you guys know we're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Appreciate you for being here. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day. Okay, so my first big major takeaway is, and you every day, as I've said this a couple times already, so just kind of bear with me. Nico Iamaleava, he just looks different, okay? He's walking around with more confidence to him. We're over at the complex a lot during the season, right? Because we come in and during camp, we're there in the mornings and doing a little bit of the viewing period. We stay after, do our work. We met with the assistant coaches and some of the players after practice, stay there and do our work. So, there's a lot of players coming through and all that. And, Nico would come through and say hello every now and again, but he would usually dip out the side door. He's a guy that's walking through the complex right now, saying hello, talking to everybody. When he spoke to the media last week, it just screamed confidence. And I think a lot of that just kind of comes with reps. I think a lot of that comes with age. I think a lot of that comes with just being here and kind of getting used to the process even more. He was a true freshman 2 years ago right now here as an early enrollee. This time last year, he was entering his first year as the starting quarterback. And now he's done all that. And you want to improve on your game, and you want to get better. You want to take steps. You want to be more of a leader. And we've talked about the leadership aspect for Nico Iamaleava this spring. But he just screams confidence right now. And, does that equate to more wins on the field, better statistics for him? We'll see. But sign me up for a confident Nico Iamaleava more than a shy reserve trying to figure some things out. And again, that's his repertoire. That is his persona. He is an introvert by nature. But I think there's a difference. You can still be an introvert, but also being confident. And that's kind of where Nico Iamaleava is this spring. And so far, getting good reviews. He's looked good throwing the football when I've been out there. Everybody continues to rave about him. It's going to be instrumental for him to work with the new offensive line in front of him and kind of bring along the wide receiver room. He was talking last week about how he challenged Chris Brazzell to kind of get those young pups going. And, he made it his agenda, put it on his agenda to make sure you challenge another veteran that's only in the second year in the program as a transfer at wide receiver. I love hearing all that. And, again, what does that mean for his play on the field? We'll find out. But Nico Iamaleava, he looks different, and I think that's a really, really good thing for the University of Tennessee. Another big takeaway that I have so far through 4 practices of Tennessee spring ball, freshmen are going to be a factor. These freshmen are going to help, okay? Whether it's Ethan Utley and Isaiah Campbell on the defensive line. Think about this right now, okay? You said goodbye to Omar Norman-Lott. You said goodbye to Amari Thomas. You said goodbye to Elijah Simmons, okay? You bring back Bryson Eason, which is good. Jackson Moy, which is good. David Hobbs, which is great. And then you don't really have anybody else. David Hobbs is sidelined right now in spring. He's not a full-go participant. And so you're having Ethan Utley and Isaiah Campbell. Now that Nathan Robinson, who's a returner but didn't play a factor on the rotation last year, he's going to miss some time in spring as well. You have Ethan Utley and Isaiah Campbell as defensive tackles 3 and 4 right now, repping with the second team. No ifs, ands, buts about it. Those two guys are going to have to play a part of being in this rotation, specifically in the interior. So Ethan Utley's got to put a lot more weight on. There's no doubt about that. But Isaiah Campbell looks like a 5-star, kind of get off the bus top dude. But those two guys have been getting a ton of reps, and they're going to be a factor for Tennessee this year, no doubt about it. Travis Smith, Radarius Jackson, kind of in the same vein. Now you've got Mike Matthews, Chris Brazel, Braylon Staley in the slot, Amari Jefferson, he's been working in the slot, but that's kind of the front line. And then your guys behind him is going to be two freshmen, and Travis Smith and Rodarius Jackson. From the eye test, again, they just look different. I continue to go back to what Tim Banks said a couple weeks ago. They look different. They look the way we want them to look, and that's a credit to the strength and conditioning program. That's a credit to the nutritionists. That's a credit to the recruitment. I mean, you're getting the caliber of player that you want in the room, and I think Travis Smith and Rodarius Jackson very much fit that bill. Now, they've just had one day of padded practice, shorter pads, full pads, and all that and more. I'm intrigued to kind of see the gains that these guys make throughout the rest of spring when they get back from spring break. But those guys, by necessity, are going to have to play, and I've already seen them make a couple of really good catches out there at fall camp. DeJuan Morris, again, you lose Dylan Sampson, and I'm not diminishing that. That dude was a stud. Sign me up for Dylan Sampson every single year, right? But you bring back Peyton Lewis, Deshaun Bishop, who's had a really good spring, Star Thomas, who's a guy that has been in college for dang near a decade, it feels like, and he can do a little bit of everything. Plus, he wears old school number 33, and I just love that. I hope that he keeps that for the season. I hope. But DeJuan Morris is a guy that's come in as a true freshman, and he looks good. He's practicing well, and he's getting some really, really good reviews from his peers and his coaching staff and the coaching staff. Is he going to force his hand into the running back rotation? I don't know. Tennessee doesn't have to play him, but he might force that hand. He's been looking good. Right now at tight end, Miles Kitzman has been in and out. He was on the stationary bike a couple of days last week, and then he was back at practice, the last one we saw on last Friday. But he's been in and out a little bit. Ethan Davis has been a warrior out there. He's been at all 4 practices. Cole Harrison has been in a red jersey. Deson Brame has been in a red jersey. That's opened up the door a lot for Jack Van Dorselaer, the freshman tight end. And I think he's impressed a lot of people with how he's been moving in space. He played tight end a lot in high school, but his senior year, he primarily focused on the defensive side of the football. And so watching him run routes and receiving the football as a bigger tight end, he's been impressive. And so potentially Jack Van Dorselaer can kind of force his hand into maybe being that third tight end to allow Tennessee to go into more 12 personnel if they so chooses. Dylan Lewis has been backing up Boo Carter at star. Okay, he's been working safety a little bit. Trey Poteet, Ty Redmond at a cornerback. I mean, these freshmen, a lot of reason out of necessity, but they look good and they're going to be forced into action, potentially next fall. And I've been really impressed. Everybody I've talked to, everybody I've kind of caught up with about spring practice so far, everybody has been very, very high on the true freshman early enrollees. Now, as they continue to work through fall camp, spring camp, we'll see if that changes. There's going to be some learning curves in there, always is. But the true freshman being a factor, that's been a major takeaway for me. And then finally, here as we head out the door, I'll give you one more takeaway that I've had from spring practice through four sessions. Could this offensive line be better? And I say that knowing that what you just ran for dang near 3,000 yards, okay? Led the SEC in rushing, top 10 in the country in rushing. Very successful in that regard. Pass blocking, pass sets, not as much. I do think that this offensive line was playing hurt all year long. Like, Javonte Spraggins, the right side really struggled. Javonte Spraggins was not healthy. John Campbell was not healthy. They were, playing him and Dane Davis about 50% of the time each. Cooper Mays is going to be tough to replace. I thought Andre Carrick probably had his best year. And then Lance Hurd was never healthy, and he was behind the 8 ball, and he was out of shape to begin the season. But Lance Hurd is carrying himself a little bit different right now, because you look around that room and like, oh man, I'm the old guy in the room now. I'm a former 5-star. I was the highly touted transfer. Let's go. Let's kick it into gear. I think getting Lance Hurd healthy to begin with is just going to be so good for him. So good for him. So Lance Hurd is carrying himself a little bit different. I love the 2 addition of the transfers and Wendell Moy. I keep on wanting to say Mo because it's spelled Mo, but it's Wendell Moy from Arizona and Sam Pendleton from Notre Dame. I said it last week on the shows, you guys are going to love Sam Pendleton. Okay, he's got the vertical bar there on his face mask, number 1. Loves old school football. Talking about if anybody touches his quarterback, he's got a problem with that. I mean, all that's great. Let's see it on the field, but you guys are going to fall in love with the personality of that old school offensive lineman. But those 2 guys are straight plug and play. You can tell. I mean, you can just tell the way they carry themselves, how they're built, how they're out there in the practice field. They're plug and play. So you got them at the guards. William Satterwhite's still making some moves here, and he needs to lock down that spot. I don't know if that'll happen this spring. Probably not. But he's doing a good job so far. A healthy Lance Hurd, and then you see about David Sanders continuing to come along. But not only David Sanders, who's obviously the future right tackle, even this year. I'm not saying he starts snap one, game one, but that will be his position for the season. He'll play the majority of snaps at right tackle if healthy, in my opinion. But a guy that could potentially be in the fold earlier on looks really good, and that's Larry Johnson. Larry Johnson was a junior college take 3 cycles ago. He was too big to play here. He's lost some weight, light on his feet right now, looks really, really good. I know he got into some game action last year, specifically Oklahoma. But yeah, Larry Johnson's looking good as well. So could this offensive line, which you add some experience with the transfers, Lance Hurd's another year older, healthier, David Sanders, all his potential and makeup, plus Larry Johnson maybe for the time being, I don't know. I mean, we'll see how they end camp. Could this offensive line be better than last year? I think in terms of pass pro, yeah. Even if David Sanders is a right tackle, you kind of take some growing pains along the way. So those are some early takeaways that I have. It's been a whole lot of fun. It's always fun to see football when you haven't seen football in quite some time, right? But a lot of good stuff from Tennessee's beginning of spring camp. First 4 practices in the books. Of course, they're on spring break right now, and they'll return to the practice field on Tuesday to have practice number 5 and the first of 11 more 10 more before the orange and white game on April the 12th. Hey, when we come back, who is Wofford? What does Wofford do well? Luckily, it's what Tennessee defends the best on defense. I'll tell you what I mean. I'll show my work here as we continue on with a Wednesday Locked On Vols. I want to tell you guys about Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in the market, development, design, and more. Experts that are ready to help you take your business to that next level. Upwork gives you flexibility by connecting them to the top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Instead of hiring a full-time person, Upwork can help find affordable top-tier freelancers to help you finish that project, right? So it's a short-term solution, or they can find a long-term solution for your next partner. Visit Upwork.com right now. Post your job for free. That's Upwork, Upwork.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. That is Upwork.com. And I want to give a shout out to Fabric. Life moves fast, especially when you have a family. My son is going to be here in the next, month or so, and it feels like life can't slow down right now. And I know that's going to be the feeling when he gets here. But one day, I know I'm going to be like this. You're probably like this right now. You watch your kids take their first steps, and before you know it, they're off to college. That's why securing the future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. With Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online right from your couch. You can be covered in under 10 minutes in many cases, and a no health exam is required in many cases. As a parent, I know I'm going to want to make sure my family is financially protected no matter what happens. Fabric can give me that peace of mind. Millions of dollars in coverage for less than $1 a day, so protecting your loved ones doesn't have to break the bank. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. That is meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. Again, that is meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Tennessee kicks off the NCAA tournament run on Thursday, 6:50 on TNT. It is against Wofford, the 15th seed. Tennessee is the number 2 seed in the Midwest region. Talked about how I love the path. I love the draw for the University of Tennessee on yesterday's show, and I mean, nothing's changed. You're looking at, obviously, you've got Wofford on Thursday. Take care of business there. Take on the winner of Utah State or UCLA, probably the Bruins, traveling across the country. That would be your round of 32 matchup. I've got confidence there. And then you're probably, and again, this is March Madness, so who knows what our plans are and what our brackets say. You're probably getting either Kentucky or Illinois in the round or in the Sweet 16. And, Kentucky's beaten Tennessee twice this year. Bit shorthanded right now. Hard to beat a team 3 times, and plus it'll be on neutral court. I have confidence in Tennessee in that regard. Plus, if Tennessee just plays its game and doesn't shoot a gajillion 3-pointers, I think that outcome is going to be different. And then Illinois, who's really, really turned it on here of late, finding its groove, but you still went up to Champaign and won earlier this year. And so those two matchups, again, it's not like you want to see Kentucky simply because Kentucky's already beat you twice. And I understand there's some injuries and all that in there. The guy on my YouTube section, a couple days ago said this is doom and gloom. And if that's why you think this is doom and gloom because I said Kentucky's beaten Tennessee twice, then I would advise not getting on the internet there, pal. I still like those Sweet 16 matchups. And then you're likely going to see Houston in the Elite Eight, and Houston very similar to Tennessee in some respects, defensive-minded team. I just love the path for Tennessee. But first, you got to handle business, and that starts with Wofford on Thursday. Dwight Perry in his third season. Again, it'll be on TNT, 6:50 Eastern Time in Lexington, Kentucky at Rupp Arena. Interesting. Last time Tennessee played a postseason game in Rupp Arena was back in 1992. Shout out to Noah Taylor for that find on that one. Wofford was on the outside looking in at the NCAA tournament before the Southern Conference tournament, the SoCon tournament. The six-seeded Terriers won 3 games in 3 days to claim a spot in the postseason. Upset number 3 seed ETSU, took down VMI, and then in the title game took down Furman 92-85. Again, group of 5s, some of them had their conference tournament championships a week before. This was back on March the 10th to punch its ticket to the NCAA tournament. Now, this will be the 6th time in program history that Wofford has made the NCAA tournament. The first time since 2019, I believe, beating Seton Hall 84-68 as a 7 seed. Yeah, 7 seed was Wofford back in the 2019 tournament. So, here's the thing you need to know about Wofford, okay? 40% of their points come from 3-pointers. They take almost 30 3-pointers a game, 28.4 3-pointers per game. 4 different players have made at least 50 3-pointers on the year. That is a lot of 3-pointers, right? And so it's 1 through 5 almost. They can knock down a 3. So 40% of Wofford's point total this year have come from behind the 3-point arc. 28.4 3-pointers per game, nearly 30. 4 players who have made over 50 this year. All SoCon players, senior guard Corey Tripp, he averages 14.3 points per game. He's their best player, okay? He can score at all 3 levels. Drive, shoot the 3, from the elbows and all that, create separation. He's good off ball as well. Corey Tripp is Wofford's best player, 14.3 points per game. The most interesting player is center Kyler Filewich, and I know I'm butchering that, and I'll hear it a million times on Thursday, and I'll get it right, but Filewich, 6'9", 11.9 points per game, so he's 6'9", 11.9 points per game, 9.4 rebounds per game, so nearly averages a double-double. Okay, he's a post-up guy, back to the basketball guy, old school big. Leads the team with 105 assists. I love a big man that plays really, really good with the basketball, leads with assists. That is Kyler Filewich, 105 assists leading Wofford so far this season. So you got Corey Tripp, all-conference player. Kyler Filewich, all-conference center. You've got Justin Bailey, who's a guard. Hits 45.1% of his 3-pointers. He was named to the SoCon All-Defensive Team. Interesting note here, he was a freshman at USC Upstate for the 2022-2023 season, alongside Tennessee senior guard Jordan Gainey, who was a sophomore at the time at USC Upstate. So Justin Bailey, who's another one of those 3-point shooters, is a former teammate of current Vol Jordan Gainey at USC Upstate, which is really, really interesting. 2 other players, Dylan Bailey and Luke Flynn, also are connecting on more than 34% of the 3-pointers so far this season. So a lot of 3-point shots, okay? Tennessee's 8-0 all-time against Wofford. Last time these 2 teams played was 2 years ago. Actually, it was last season, technically. UT won 82-61 at Thompson Bowling Arena at the Food City Center back in November. So that's a look at who Wofford is. Again, Tennessee should absolutely roll in this game. but you can't get to the round of 32. You can't get to the Sweet 16. You can't get back to the Elite Eight and hopefully onto the Final Four unless you win that first game. And that's a look at Wofford, 19-15 on the year, the 15th seed coming from the SoCon, the Southern Tournament champions, and they love to shoot three-pointers. So that is a look at Wofford. We'll continue that conversation, hopefully having a very special guest, not just Josh Ward, on tomorrow's show, and hopefully I get that interview done, and we'll play it for the game coming up on Thursday night. So that is coming up next. What is Jay Bilas, ESPN broadcaster? He is what Kirk Herbstreit is to football. That's what Jay Bilas is to college basketball. What does he have to say about Tennessee's chances of getting back to the Elite Eight and maybe the Final Four? Pretty good. Pretty good, actually. That's coming up next. We continue on here with your Wednesday Locked On Vols. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money, start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter to save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without any stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use promo code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com. 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com. Monarch Money, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for half of your first year. 50% off at monarchmoney.com. Promo code LOCKEDONCollege.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Encourage you guys to check out that bracket breakdown. Fantastic show. They did such a heck of a job last weekend, and your boy might be joining at some point, this weekend, or if Tennessee advances. So, fantastic work. Check it all out. Fire TV. Just tell it to go play the bracket breakdown. Okay, so we found out who Wofford is. Now, Jay Bilas, longtime college basketball analyst, broadcaster, kind of went through the Midwest region and picked who he believed would go to the Final Four. Spoiler, he did not have Tennessee going to the Final Four, but he speaks very, very highly of Tennessee and has Tennessee on the verge of going to the Final Four. Looking at the first round game, said Wofford is good, quote, Wofford is good and on a 3-game win streak, but Tennessee is too powerful, so give Tennessee the win there. He picked Utah State to upset UCLA. That would be the 10-7. That would be the 10 over the 7, upsetting Utah State, upsetting UCLA to earn the opportunity to play Tennessee in the second round. In Lexington, that would come on Saturday. Said, quote, whether it is UCLA or Utah State, you've got the Vols. Tennessee is too physical and too experienced, end quote. All right, so then that takes you to the Sweet 16, where Kentucky beat Tennessee twice in the regular season, 78-73 in Knoxville back at the end of January, and then 75-64 in Rupp Arena in February, where in that game, Tennessee just could not stop shooting three-pointers. But despite all that, Jay Bilas still likes Tennessee to win round 3 of this rivalry that just so would happen to be potentially in the Sweet 16. Quote, Kentucky can score, but not against Tennessee on a neutral court. When healthy, Kentucky would be very tough to beat, but I like Tennessee here. That feels like the popular pick a little bit. If it is going to go down between Tennessee and Kentucky, Kentucky's a little bit injury prone right now. Kentucky has beaten Tennessee twice. This will be a neutral court. If Tennessee can just, and this is something I forgot to even mention against Wofford in the earlier segment, but it works well here as well, so I'm going to pull it out. Talking about three-point shooting, right, about how Wofford just likes to shoot the three and shoot the three and shoot the three. Well, you know what Tennessee does its best defensively? Defend the three. Tennessee defense, the number one ranked defense in the country per KenPom. What does it do best? It perimeter defense. It loves to defend the three-point line. And that's why it's just so baffling in that game where Kentucky just couldn't miss. Kentucky just couldn't miss. Tennessee's three-point defense going to have to come into play against Wofford. And if you do play Kentucky again, we'll certainly have to come play against Kentucky. But a reminder, Kentucky has been shorthanded here of late. I'd be interested to see what the injury report is kind of going into the NCAA tournament for the Wildcats. So that is if it's Kentucky. Doesn't even mention Illinois here, so he has Kentucky beating Illinois in the round of 32. So that would put Tennessee going on to the Elite Eight, where he would have Tennessee playing Houston. Houston 4-3 record, its first 7 games of the year, finished 25-1 since. Only loss in regulation for the Cougars during the year was against Auburn on November the 9th. Alabama, San Diego, and Texas Tech all needed overtime to beat Houston. That's a pretty interesting stat right there. The only loss in regulation this year for Houston was to fellow number 1 seed Auburn back in November. Alabama, San Diego State, and Texas Tech all needed overtime to beat Houston. Bilas gave Tennessee a high, quote, a high chance of potentially upsetting and punching its ticket to the Final Four. But at the end, he sides with Houston. Quote, this game will be a physical battle that should be officiated by 3 Navy SEALs. I'm taking Houston in this one, end quote. So if Tennessee were to go back to the Elite Eight, that's great. Probably going to have to square up against Houston. Very two similar teams. We'll talk about that down the line. First things first is Wofford, and then so on and so forth. But 2 very similar teams, and I agree with them, would need to be refereed by some Navy SEALs and some guys who can get in there and break up some of the physicality, because it would be interesting there. So I'm pumped. I'm super excited about Thursday night. Little double dip action. You got Tennessee taking on Wofford, 6:50, and then at 7:30 you have Tennessee baseball beginning its series against Alabama on the road at number 12 Alabama. I'm going to be on hand in Tuscaloosa Friday and Saturday, but I'm going to stay back at the house so I can have both games going on at once, cover baseball, and certainly, watch basketball and get an episode out after the game, or, shortly after the game. So looking forward to that. 2 recruiting notes I want to end on here. Both these guys were on campus this past weekend, or the weekend before last, I guess. And 2 really, really big there were several guys who were on campus, right? But one of the guys is a quarterback commit already, Faizon Brandon, the 5-star. You know all about Faizon. But he was here just continuing to build relationships. He told Matt Ray over at VolQuest.com, quote, I'm feeling pretty good about the class so far, building relationships with this class. We've got Tyreek King, Carson Sneed, and we got some other guys. I'm really still trying to continue to make it the best class for 2026. So that was good. And, of course, you had Tristan Keys, who was on campus with Faizon Brandon. Faizon Brandon, the 5-star quarterback, certainly trying to chat him up a little bit, the number 1 ranked wide receiver in the 2026 class. Faizon Brandon also, when asked about other teams still recruiting him, quote, LSU and Alabama both, they continue to try to recruit me heavily, but I let them know I'm 100% locked in to Tennessee. But I don't want to break any bonds. I don't want to burn any bridges or anything like that. Still want to keep the relationships because you never know what can happen. So I try not to brush them off or anything like that. I just keep the relationship, but I still tell them I am locked in with Tennessee, though. That line there says you never know what can happen. I mean, he's completely right. That's not him saying, I might flip on Tennessee. That's not him saying that. It's not him saying, I'm going to enter the transfer portal after a semester. That's not him saying that, but he's right. You simply never know. That's why when I meet colleagues or people from rivaling companies or businesses or whatever, always try to have a good open dialogue, because you simply never know what might happen. Locked On might fire me tomorrow. VolQuest Brent Hubs might fire me next week. I know that a lot of people would be rejoicing if that were to happen, but you just never know. And so I thought that was a really, really good answer. Hopefully none of that happened, just because I'm living the dream with this job. Both my jobs. Hopefully none of that happens and all that. But I think Faizon speaks some truth right here. I think that's really, really a good thing to say. He's going to be back. He doesn't have any plans to check out LSU or Alabama. He'll be back to Knoxville in April and then back in June for an official visit. So that is an update on quarterback commit 5-star Faizon Brandon. And then finally, another guy that was on campus, highly rated 4-star prospect interior offensive lineman, Darius Gray from Richmond, Virginia. Okay, On3 has him as the number 65 prospect in the country, the 5th interior offensive lineman, the 2nd player from the state of Virginia. The On3 industry rankings, which takes in, a weighted average between On3, 247, ESPN, and Rivals. He's the number 31 overall prospect in the country, the 2nd interior offensive lineman, and the 2nd player from the state of Virginia. That is Darius Gray, 6'3", 285 pounds, class of 2026 interior offensive lineman. And he had a lot of good things to say about Tennessee. He was on Tennessee's campus last week. Quote, "My biggest takeaway from practice was the way the coaches were patient with everything. And while they were teaching, many athletes still wanted to learn faster that way." Said he enjoyed spending time with Glenn Ellerby. He's going to be back on campus in June the 6th for his official visit. He also has official visits lined up with Auburn, LSU, Penn State, and South Carolina in June. So Tennessee's going to get one of the first official visits for Darius Gray. Typically, you want to be last, it feels like, but nowadays with the evolution of name, image, likeness, you just never know. But sounds like Tennessee did a good job with Darius Gray, who was on campus last week as well. All right, we hit on a number of different things right here. Talked a little recruiting at the end, what Jay Bilas has to say about Tennessee's run in the NCAA tournament, who Wofford is, Tennessee's opponent in the NCAA tournament round of 64. And then, of course, we talked a little bit about, I'm talking really, really fast right now. We talked a little bit about spring practice, some of my biggest takeaways. Right now, I just think it's easy. It's your quarterback, right? Nico looks different. He's acting different. What's that mean on the field? We'll see. But it feels different right now, and that's a good thing. Hey, on tomorrow's show, Josh Ward going to get us set for Tennessee and Wofford. Hopefully, I have another very special guest on there to give us some more information on Wofford. All that and more is coming up on tomorrow's Locked On Vols, Thursday's Locked On Vols, getting you set for Tennessee and Wofford in the NCAA tournament. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching right now, please subscribe on the YouTube channel. If you're listening right now, please subscribe to whatever platform you're listening to. Download these episodes so you have them on the go. Appreciate you guys as always. This is Locked On Vols.